Hi, I'm Sandy from Scissors in the City. I'm going to be making this page using Echo Park's Born to Travel paper along with the ephemera and some enamel dots. And this page has a secret spot. When you pull that up, you can either put secret notes in there or maybe a photo that you don't want everyone to see. The tools you need to make this kit are a trimmer, dimensionals, score tape, scissors, tape runner, some sort of tool to score with, an X-Acto blade, and I have a punch from Stampin' Up! For the tags. And of course you'll need the kit. So to get started, we're going to do our trimming. This red 12 by 12 sheet, you just need to trim off the ID strip. And then this luggage paper, we're going to trim right below the luggage. So I don't want the words. And then this is actually going to be placed on there in a little bit, but we'll continue to do our trimming. We need this tag. And I'm going to cut off the ID strip. This is the only one we're going to use, so these two you can set aside. Then our airplane paper, I need to cut off the ID strip again. Then we have our map paper. I'm going to cut off the ID strip. And then I'm going to trim again a 1/2 inch because I want this diagonal stripe. So we're going to use that. I'll set that aside. And then we're going to trim one more diagonal strip off. So about a 1/2 inch. And this one we don't use. So my map paper should look like this, with a diagonal on each edge there, but nothing on these two. Okay. So we're going to set that aside. Actually, I guess I put my trimmer away. Let's go ahead and start adhering things together. So my white paper, I need to, this is for my photo, and I'm going to put that on my red so that I have about an equal border all the way around, which will be about 1/4 inch. And take your airplane paper Then take your airplane paper and your red, and we're going to attach that to the red. And that also has a border on 3 sides. Now we'll take our luggage. This is when this punch comes in handy. I'm going to use that. And then on the blue also. And we're going to adhere our luggage to our blue. And I kind of wanted the same border all the way around that too. Okay. Now go ahead and take your map paper. Make sure that the writing is the right side up. And we'll take our little diagonal stripe. We're going to start with that. And, whoops, I forgot to tell you, we need to trim this. I want to trim it right like so. So I have a blue diagonal. And then go ahead and place that on there. And that, well, I would say it's about a ½ an inch from the edge. And then I'm going to go ahead and adhere my luggage on there over the top of that. And I want it about a quarter of an inch away from the edge. And I'm just going to take a scissor and trim this. If you'd like, you can put it back in your trimmer and cut it that way. Okay. And then next, I need to measure this. I'm going to use my trimmer. If you would prefer to use an X-Acto knife, you certainly can. We are going to cut a slit in our paper. And it needs to be, let me double check that measurement one more time. It needs to be about 2 3/4 inch away from the edge of the paper. So we'll place this at 2 3/4. And I'm going to go just shy of that. And a ½ an inch from the top. And we want it 5½ inches long. Then I'm going to go the other direction just a little bit and do another cut. I'm just going to use my scissor, get both of them, snip that, and then I can pull out the channel here. Okay. Then go ahead and find a piece of paper that looks about like this, and we are going to score it at 3/4 inch. And then I want to score at another 3/4 inch. And I want to score at 1 3/4. So I have 3 score lines in there. And we're just going to fan fold that. So I got a Z, and I have another one there. And what I'm going to do with this is I want to fold it back. I don't want to score it because sometimes with our scores it might be off a little bit, and I don't want these two overlapping. So if that makes sense, I've scored at 3/4, another 3/4, 1 3/4, and then I'm going to put it together like that and then meet up those edges. And then I can trim this off. Then take your tool that you can burnish with and give that a good press. Okay. Then I'm going to take my paper back and I'm going to test this. And so I put in both of my legs. And then it should come up on the back okay. And I'm just going to slide this up and down and make sure it slides in that channel easily. And it's good. So then I can go back to the back side, now that I know this is okay. And just for good measure, I'm going to burnish it one more time. You have another little piece of paper, and I'm going to take that and I'm going to measure it about like so, and snip that. Make sure it still fits on there. And I'm going to take my score tape and put some on each end, but not in the middle. This is just to give it a little stability, and you don't want any of your adhesive hanging off the edge. I'm going to lay that back down, go like that, and I will burnish it some more. Sure it slides okay. Very good. Okay, then let's go back to our airplanes. And my airplanes are going to sit on top of that. So they're going to be about like so. And this is too long. The airplanes will come down a little bit over our diagonal stripe. So I want to cut it about like this. And I'm going to get my trimmer back out because I can do a straight liner with my trimmer better than by hand. And then I also want to just cut these ends in a little bit. Look at this again and make sure it fits now. Yes, it's in and it's on, it's all good. So then we're going to put some score tape again there on this white piece. I'm going to make sure it's all the way to the bottom. Take this off. And we want it about like so. Let's make sure it's all good. And it's going to go straight. Okay, so let's just check it. Yes, it slides up nicely. Okay, then in your ephemera, find your travel notes. And we're going to put adhesive on that. This you do not want a dimensional. And we're going to slide this up. And now we know where to place our travel notes. Get it straight. And I want it about like so. So centered right and left on our airplane slider. I'm going to put that on. And now it'll cover it up. And that was the hardest thing we have to do. Okay. So we already placed our, bring this back in. We already placed our photo on its mat. So we can now go ahead. Your paper won't be double-sided like this. Your paper will be red on the back. And then this one will get placed with about equal borders there. Obviously this one moves a bit, so it may vary. Excuse me, reach. You have 3 2x2s, and we're just going to kind of lay them out here. I'm not going to glue them down quite yet. I can get my pieces out. And I want to find the airplane. And our tags, our little flags. And I'm just going to kind of place things so that I'm like where they are. And then the airplane, I actually fussy cut, but not close. I kept some of the border. I just fussy cut the top part. Like that. And I don't want that pointy. Okay, and then I did use dimensionals on the airplane. And I wanted that a little bit on an angle because the airplane should fly. And now I know kind of better where I want to put that. Let's do our travel. And travel is with a dimensional about like so. And now we can put our 2x2s on. What I usually do is do the top and the bottom, and then I know where to place the middle. I'm actually going to move this way so I can see a little better. I'm sure it's still gonna be okay. Now, I know where things are. I can go ahead and put my little flags on. And let's do it about even with that line. These, I can just put all in a row. And I did not use dimensionals on these either because of the slider. Okay, coming along. Now we're going to make this by, and I use dimensionals on pretty much everything now. Like that. Then we need our compass. Not like that. Where's my other one? Oh. Then you have a tag that says living it up, but I didn't want the balloon on there, so I just trimmed it. I didn't need that. And then we'll put a couple dimensionals on that also. That's going to go about like that. Adhesive on the back of it. And then go ahead and grab your enamel dots. And I just mixed up the colors. So I did a green, and then the small one, and then a medium. And then we'll stick a couple little ones down in the bottom here. And a couple up on top. And then I almost forgot, we need to mount it onto our base paper. So of course we need to avoid this, the slider. So go around the edges, but not too close. And then it gets mounted on your paper with equal borders around it. right here, I also did a dot. And maybe we'll use the big one. I'll cover it up. And there you go. That's going to want to catch there. So that's page 1. Page 2. You need the same tools that you used on page 1 and your leftover enamel dots. Okay, so these are the items you need for your page 2. You'll find it in the kit. We need to trim the ID strip from the red paper. Again, your red paper will be different than mine. Yours is red cardstock. And then we're going to take our luggage and cut it just below the luggage so that we cut off the words. And we need to take our map paper and cut off the ID strip. And then we're also going to cut a 1/2 inch, just like we did before. I'm going to keep this, and from one side, cut another 1/2 inch off. And we have our photo mats. So we'll go ahead and adhere the 4x6 photo onto our red paper with an equal border. And we'll do the other one. And then we have one more white. And then our airplanes. And while we're adhering, let's go ahead and get our luggage. Adhere that to the blue dots. Oops, no, this one doesn't get trimmed. Sorry. This one just gets placed on there. And what I'm going to do is bring out my page 1. And I'm going to line up my paper so that I can get my stripe on the bottom at the same spot. And I should have done my stripe first. There's little diagonals. So none of this is trimmed this time. Find a diagonal that I like better. Okay. adhesive on here. So we'll go ahead and line that up. And trim off the edge. I'm going to keep that there just for placement. Okay, then we have our photo mats, and we're going to place them on our paper. And I'm just putting them on now without the adhesive on it, just to kind of get that laid out the way I want it. So I'm just going to give it about 1/4 inch or so from the side. Move that first page out of the way. And put that on about like so. Cardstock wants to grab my adhesive, so I have to go slow, and then it'll actually not grab it. Take my little airplane paper. See? Tried to go too fast. Now it's stuck to my finger. Take this tag, and all we need is the where we go, or I guess it's not a tag, it's a 3x4 piece of paper. And I'm just going to trim the way we go out of here. And I'm Born to Travel is going to get some dimensionals on it. And then away we go, I'm going to use little dimensionals. And that is going to get placed right under travel and about by the leg of the A. Like that. Take off the lining off these dimensionals. That's going to get placed about like that. I'm not pressing it down firmly yet because I want to take this little tag I'm going to slide that under so it kind of highlights the way we go. Now I can press it down. Oh, and then I almost forgot. We need to put our red paper mount it on our red paper. So there you go. That's your second sheet, or your second page. Oh, this one's slipped off. Need more adhesive on that one. And then if you have some leftover enamel dots, go ahead and place them around. And there's your 2-page spread. Thank you for watching.